this is Art and Architecture program. On behalf of this Art and Architecture program, we have been talking about architecture so far, and once again that the second time we are going to talk about the art. To talk about the art, we have Professor Liyanage Amarkirti with us. So, Professor, we would like to know about the first, how you categorize, so how you would explain this particular subject called art.
Yeah, it is perhaps one of the best topics to talk about, and philosophers have been struggling to explain what art is, and it is not at all easy for anyone to describe. But let me take take a shot at it, and I would say art is one of the most enduring and most important human activities. At least art comes out of one of the human activities that is so important in human civilization. Anthropologists have been describing, explaining art in many ways. One of the things they are talking about is that at a certain point in human civilization, human beings began to create what we call non-utilitarian objects, and human beings began to engage in non-utilitarian acts. Non-utilitarian act is something that does not have direct use. Right, for example, when we eat something, it is useful for our body. When we sleep, it is useful for our health. When we say hunt an animal, we can eat it, right? Those are utilitarian acts. But when we dance, when we sing, what is the use of it? Right? They are non-utilitarian acts. There are some other non-utilitarian acts, so playing, for example, playing with our friends, and they do not have any direct use in terms of utility, in terms of use. Art comes out of this non-utilitarian acts and creation of non-utilitarian objects. And then you have to explain why human beings have always in human civilization always have engaged in acts that can be called non-utilitarian. One explanation would be that freedom is something human beings love everywhere. Human beings hate utilitarian life. If human beings have to work to find food or shelter all day, human beings will go crazy. Actually, human being is one of those animals that loves to play, loves to be free. And human beings, like if they have to work to find food, they wouldn't spend like 24 hours looking for food. They will spend 1 hour to look for the lunch or dinner, and then after eating it, they like freedom. They like to be free, play, sing, tell stories. That is part of human civilization. What we now call art comes out of that. And another thing, human beings love beauty. Ugliness is something human beings hate. They love beauty, they love shapes, they love attractive colors, they love attractive shapes, they love attractive movements, bodily movements. They love attractively organized stories. Beauty is something fundamental to human civilization. Art comes out of that as well. That is, this human drive, the inner human drive to create beauty, appreciate beauty, share beauty with other people, talk about beautiful things. It could be beautiful objects, it could be about beautiful men for women, it could be about beautiful women for us men, beautiful sceneries, beautiful mountains, beautiful trees. Human beings immediately recognize such beauty. Not only that, they look at them, keep looking at beauty, they want to explain it to someone else. They want to engage in conversations about beauty, all kinds of beauty, right. And when it comes to language, that is also important thing. Language, now we are talking about art in language, using our human language. For example, when a child is hungry, if he or she already speaks, he or she would say, "Mummy, I am hungry," or in Sinhala, "Amme mata badagini," right. But that is utilitarian use of language, but human beings use language to create beauty as well. Ha ha hari hawa, kale mading awa, twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are. So, rhythm in this language. Human beings, whatever language they speak, they want to create beauty in language as well. Out of that desire, out of that tendency, poetry happens. Poetry comes out of the human need to create beauty. So, those are like several takes on your question.
Yeah. Now, different people talking about the different categories in art. Someone say it's social arts and political arts. So, do you think are there any categories in that?
Well, look, it is difficult to categorize into like neatly categorize into this is political art, this is social art, this is religious art. Now, art is a domain where everything coexists. You know, what we normally called political art, you will find psychological element in it. You will find religious element in it. For example, take Oedipus, the play, right. When you take that kind of great play, you find everything in it: psychology, religion, politics, and then the workings of human mind, hate and the hunger for power, everything is there. And it is very difficult to neatly separate into art into different categories. But yes, and some people might want to use art for political purposes. For example, propagate certain political ideas. And in doing so, some people might find some short term uses of it, but in the long run, I think the great works of art cannot be very propagandist in a very narrowly political sense. That means, for example, let us say we have this election to win, we do this year, let us say we have this election to win this year in Sri Lanka, then we need to create art to win that election. Therefore, that very short term narrow political goal. If you create drama for that kind of short term narrow goal, I do not think that would be great art. Great art. But you can interpret politics in different way. For example, take Singhabahu the play, the Sri Lankan Sinhala classic play, where this son thinks that he can no longer live in his father's cave. The son and daughter and their mother, they are trapped in this cave, rock cave, because the lion, the father, thinks that outside world is not safe for his family.
Yeah.
Son thinks that nope, I don't want to live in this father's cave. I want freedom. I want to go outside. I want to think for myself. I want to see the world for myself in my own eyes. I want to take my sister and my mother out there to show them the world. Right? Now,
So you mean that is the political.
that is politics. That is politics, right? Son is looking for freedom, freedom from the political structure imposed on him by his own father, right? Singabahu is not known to be a political play. It's not known to be a political play in a propagandist sense, but in modern Sri Lanka, is one of the most political plays that we have here.
Yeah.
I would defend that kind of political art, not very narrowly propagandist art.
Professor, you have translated a book written by Martha Nussbaum, Why Democracy Need Humanity. So you have named it Why Need Art.
Yeah.
So what is this contradiction? The name, the English book, and when it comes to Sinhala, you have changed the name completely into some different meaning.
Yeah, that's a real good observation on your part. Yes, actually the original title of Martha Nussbaum's book is Not for Profit, Why Democracy Needs the Humanities. That book was originally published in 2010 in the US. I translated it into Sinhala in 2012. The main reason for translating it is to make the case for teaching humanities in Sri Lankan universities, because in 2012 we had this university lecturers trade union struggle to defend university education in our country. So, one of the challenges that we had was to defend the humanities subjects. Usually in Sri Lanka, humanities subjects are languages, literature, philosophy, history, subjects of that kind. Now, in Sri Lanka, science subjects, engineering subjects are relatively safe, and for good reasons actually. I myself like those subjects, and I would defend those subjects being taught in our universities. I have I totally agree with that. But one of the problems we have is that humanities subjects, art subjects are marginalized, poorly funded, and the brightest students in the country don't learn those subjects. That's one of the issues that we have. And when I read the book, Martha Nussbaum's book, I thought I should translate it into Sinhala in order to enrich the dialogue about art in our country. So, when I considered translating the title, the question that you are asking,
Why need art?
why need, yeah, I translated it as Kalava Kumakata the. It's basically roughly, if I retranslate it to English, what is art for, or something of that kind. No? What is the need of art, something like that. There, Kalava, by Kalava, Sinhala word, I mean the humanities subjects, not necessarily performing arts or literature. Everything that we study under Kalava or arts subjects in our country. There, Martha Nussbaum argues that democratic country, if a democratic country to function properly, citizens of that country needs to develop certain kind of qualities. One of the qualities is critical thinking. Another one is, she calls it sympathetic imagination, that is being able to identify with other people different from ourselves. For example, say I am Sinhala Buddhist person, I should be able to identify with Sri Lankan Tamil person in terms of my imagination, Sri Lankan Muslim person in my imagination. I am a man, I should be able to enter into the life of a woman in our society. That is what Martha Nussbaum calls sympathetic imagination. One of the functions of art is to develop citizens' sympathetic imagination, that is the citizens' skills in entering into other people's lives imaginarily, right. That is one of the functions of narrative art in particular. So, that book is so wonderful in explaining the significance of that quality. If human beings cannot, if human beings do not have that skill, that is like entering other people's lives fictionally, imaginarily, they cannot understand the issues, problems of other people. If they do not have that skill, democracy cannot function, right. Democracy works if human beings or citizens of that democracy have the quality of being sympathetic to other people's lives, right. Otherwise, we will be very selfish, only concerned about our own issues, right. So, democracy works when we have that very important skill. Art subjects, especially art, narrative art, fiction, films, theatre, develops that skill in us. That's one of the functions of arts.
Professor, as we know that these days there is a discussion in social medias, and most people say can art change society, or somebody says art cannot change the society. So, what do you think about that, whether we can change the society with art, or art cannot change the society, or what is your explanation on that?
Yeah, that's actually that's a good question, and also that debate that is taking place right now in Sri Lanka is also important. Look, art alone cannot change society. Changing society requires much more serious human effort. That's kind of political collective effort. Artist works all by himself or herself alone, creating some imaginary world and trying to get people to think differently about their own lives, their own societies. But just to quote Herbert Marcuse, this German philosopher, famous philosopher in the 20th century, Herbert Marcuse once said, art alone cannot change society, but art can change the consciousness of the people who can change society. The function of art is to slowly maybe change the consciousness of human beings who can change society. So, I am also a literary artist. I would not write books to change the society, but I would write my books, my stories to engage in a fruitful dialogue with human beings who can in turn change society.
And change their intellectual thinking process, or what?
Exactly, exactly. Intellectual skills and intellectual aspect of their lives, and also emotional one. Emotional aspect, psychological one, right? We have to that for example, in order to create kind of fundamental significant change in a society, human beings have to engage with that change intellectually, that is rationally, emotionally, psychologically, your entire being should be brought into that process of changing society, right? In that, art has a very good function, but artist cannot be a like social changer,
or a politician.
politician. Yeah.
That's what he said. Now, art cannot change the society. Art can change the people's thinking process or their mind, so they will change the society. We will meet up with another day for this kind of discussion. Thank you very much, Professor, for this contribution, for this spending your valuable time for us.
Thank you. It's good to be here actually.
Thanks. Thank you very much. This is Art and Architecture. We'll meet up in another day. Thank you.